Hello, hello. Let me get TikTok going. Let me try and fix my light. Please ignore the giant pimple on my face as much as I'm trying to. I don't know what's happening with my light. It's not working. Oh, is that red? Blue? I did it. Yay. This light is like a little precarious. Sometimes it's happy and sometimes it's not. And you really can't even see it, but it just makes me happy. I'm gonna make this. Whoop, nope. Like that. No. Jesus Christ. There we go. That can be a smidge smaller. Okay. Focus. Everyone focus. Let's go live on TikTok. Let's get the things done. Let's do the things. Hi, a Blockbuster parking lot. I'm very excited for today. We're New Yorkers. Making fun of New Yorkers is my favorite thing on the planet. And when I used to never make fun of New Yorkers. I idolized you all until I married into a New York family. They're not Italian. But to be in a room full of New Yorkers, you guys just fit the stereotypes so well, and it just really makes me chuckle. So now I physically, oh, my eyelash hurts. I physically can't stop making fun of New Yorkers, which is fine. And Eric Adams is peak New York to me. I know he's not the most important person in New York, obviously, and New Yorkers hate him, but he's just so, this is he's literally if ChatGPT could make a Southerner's impression of a New Yorker, this is what it would be. What was I doing? Going live on TikTok. Called my fiance and said my show is on tonight, and he replied, yeah, it's Tuesday. Let him know. Let him know. Okay, live. Not Whitney Lovett. Cancel. Settings. Again, you have to go so far down to make it 18 and older. Every time. Can't save it. Can't save that setting. You would fit right in New York. Thank you. And I've always said that. I just couldn't do the cold. I do love New York, and I would move there if it wasn't so cold there. Ugh! It's too many characters. I can't do this. It's the worst thing to happen to any woman ever. It's not so bad. It is, though. It is. And it's fine. You guys have to lie to yourselves. And that's fine. It's fine for you to lie to yourselves. I can't. I did think we were talking about Eric Andre for an undisclosed amount of time. I might, imagine if I had it wrong. I might do an Eric Andre stream one day because I do find him to be hilarious. But today we're talking about Eric Adams. I'm going to go ahead and get into it because I didn't think this was going to be a big deal. I had seen memes of him and seen clips of him where he just looked a fucking mess. And I was like, oh, that'll be a funny, unserious stream. It got serious very quickly. So let me do a poll. Colleen, thank you for subscribing. It's kind of cold in my office and my hair is making me cold. Do you know who this is? Yes, deeply. Kinda. Not at all. Even if you had it wrong, we'd be here for it. Okay, I want my blanket. My office is a mess, and Steven is supposed to be sleeping in here in a couple days. Oops. No idea who this is, and to be honest, that's been the norm lately. I hope that you are into that, because I am. Even if... Okay, wait, let me look at the poll. Okay, lots of people on kinda. So you guys are on the same vibe that I was, but you're going to be learning a lot. I was going to make this very short and low-key and simple. It's not going to be any of those things. I'm so sorry. It's just simply not going to be any of those things. So, Eric Adams, if there's any mistakes in this, I'm sorry. I did not do as much due diligence as I could have in fact-checking. Most of it's honestly from Wikipedia. Wikipedia really carried for this. But I kind of don't care. I'm sorry. I don't care. Because I think, he's a bad person. I think he is a bad guy. And so, oh, I got a detail wrong? Okay. But when I do a stream about, Taylor Frankie Paul, I'm everyone's already wrong about you. So I need to tell the truth. But with Eric Adams, it's everyone kind of hates you. and everyone hates you, and I kind of hate you, so whatever. On all allegedly, Eric, if you're watching this, other people have said so much worse about you, so I don't really think you and I should have a problem, but I would say no hate, but I just said I kind of hated you. So Eric, if you're here, here we are. Sorry. Maybe you shouldn't have done this stuff. Just question mark. So I knew nothing about him. All I knew is that he was the mayor of New York. A lot of people hated him. And he did some bad things. That's all I knew. I didn't know what the bad things were. No idea. So who is this man? Normally, I don't like to spoil my stream within the stream, but I just needed to show you a clip of him just so you can kind of get the vibes. So Eric Leroy Adams was born in 1960. He's an American politician and former police officer. He was mayor of New York City from 2022 to 2025. So that's kind of what I knew. Here's a random clip of him that's just like him being himself. Like, I don't... So I just wanted to start off with that. Like, I was like, let's start at the end and then let's get to the beginning and see how we got there. And like, he literally just says anything. Like, it seems like there is not any filter between his brain and his mouth. Like, it's just a highway. Like, whatever is happening. I feel like I need to meet his parents. It's like, oh, we'll get into the parents. He has much childhood trauma, not shockingly so. Someone brought up Kanye West earlier. I feel like I need to know if they've met. You know what I mean? Like, you're both bald. You both just say whatever the fuck. Like, it... Oh, God. So let's get into it. And I just want to say before we get into too much, he is a cop. I do not like cops. Okay? There's not a Kanye stream, but there's a Kim Ye stream. There's a stream about their relationship, not about him and his life. An Eric Adams, Kanye West podcast, and just for good measure, let's throw Eric Andre in there. We need one sane person, and I believe, like, Eric Andre is insane in his sense of humor, but I do think he's, like, a stable adult. I think he needs to be there as well. We call it the Eric's plus yay. And that podcast, someone write this down. So, and I do think Brittany would be a better mayor. Eric Adams had his, you guys brought up Eric Andre, and now I keep wanting to say that. Eric's at all. So he is a cop. He will always be a cop to me. I think cops are class traitors. I think that the police are beyond reform. They need restructure. Like, look at the history of policing in this nation. You guys know where I stand on this. So we're going to talk many times about him being a cop because he was a cop. And one of my most woke stances that I firmly believe and I will defend seriously is that Paw Patrol is pro-police propaganda. I firmly believe Paw Patrol is propaganda. Firmly. And, like, it sounds like a joke, and I can say it and joke about it, but also I mean it. I do mean it. Hee hee hee. But who funds the Paw Patrol? Is it privately or publicly funded? And who polices the Paw Patrol? It's copaganda. Copaganda. I don't know about it. I've read a couple of the books. I've seen 1 or 2 episodes. I've seen what I've needed to see. I don't know their names. I don't know the plot lines, but I've seen what I've needed to see. So I open up Wikipedia and I say, all right, Eric Adams, former cop, then turned mayor. What are we getting into? This is what I see. Great start on Wiki. Personal life, the only things listed: plant-based diet, sexual assault lawsuit, Albanian citizenship. Off to a flying start of my research. So let's start with his childhood. He was born in 1960. He was the fourth of 6 children. He was born in Brooklyn. His mother, Dorothy Mae Adams Streeter, worked double shifts as a house cleaner. She only had a 3rd grade education, and his father was a butcher who struggled with alcoholism. His parents were from Alabama, and then they moved to New York City in the 1950s. So like very World War II, migrating to major cities. Great migration still at that time, technically. So very like American story, very New York story. Like parents left the South during segregation to come to the North. Like, yeah, that's his background, not to paint with too broad of a brush. I tried to find more information on his parents and I couldn't find a ton, other than the fact that like he really seems like loves his mother and his father had like issues. That's kind of what I have gathered from his childhood, and lots of siblings. Also keep in mind, like, birth control wasn't really a thing. So, well, it was, but like not the way it is today. So he was raised in a rat-infested tenement in Bushwick, Brooklyn. This is like very 1960s New York core, in my opinion. Did I already point out I'm wearing my New York? His family was so poor that he said they would get evicted so often that he would bring a bag of clothes to school, because lots of times he would come home from school and they'd be like, you've been evicted. And he said he earned money as a squeegee boy. So like when you stop at like a light and people like offer to like clean your windshield, is that what it's called? And with the squeegee, like that was him. And yes, this is where his beef with rats comes from. Very understandably so. There was a movie where that happened with someone. I don't remember what movie it was, though. So anyway, in 1968, his mother managed to save up enough to buy a house, and they moved to Queens. So this is when he was 8 years old. So like as a very small child, it seems like they were getting evicted a lot in Brooklyn, moving around from place to place. And then by the time he was 8, he had a little more stability. I think this is also when his dad and mom kind of split. I tried to find a clear answer to that and couldn't really find a clear one. So I don't mean this as an insult, but his story is literally like if you were on ChatGPT and you were like, I need you to write a troubled New York City upbringing story for a future politician. That's what his childhood sounds like to me. And I don't mean like he's lying. Maybe he is. We'll get into that later. But it's just like everything. Like it's too classic to me. It's too classic. I took a geography class and everyone had to research a Caribbean nation. Somebody accidentally made a whole project on Jamaica, Queens, and that's how I know about Jamaica, Queens. I was gonna say, is this coming from him? Some yes and some no. I'm gonna get into like the public story and then we'll start poking holes. ChatGPT, pull me up by my bootstraps. So at age 14, he joined a gang, the 7 Crowns. I do not know anything about this gang. And he became known as Tough Little Guy. He would hold money for local hustlers. He also ran errands. He purchased groceries, and like basically was a little errand boy for this woman, Mickey, who was a prostitute and a dancer, and she got injured. So he became like her little errand boy, I guess. But then she refused to pay for the groceries and refused to pay him. And so him and his brother stole her TV and a money order. So again, like that just sounds like Eric Adams is kind of a cartoon character to me. And that sounds like a flashback of a cartoon to me. So him and his brother were later arrested for criminal trespassing. And then this tracks, keep in mind, this is like the 70s in New York. They were arrested, and while in police custody, they were beaten by NYPD officers until another cop intervened. He was sent to juvie for a few days, and then he was on probation. So like I said, very like troubled New Yorker childhood, was involved in gangs. And he had PTSD after the incident and said that this is what motivated him to become law enforcement. They scared him straight and made him a cop, didn't they? Yeah. So he said that he was particularly intrigued by Black police officers and by the swagger and respect that comes with being in law enforcement. So, okay, like you were in a gang and then the legal gang beat you up. So you said, let me switch gangs. Let me go to the legal gang. He said, it seems like you guys have a better situation going on over there and I would like to join. He did graduate high school in January 1979. He really struggled. He graduated late, graduating in January. He really struggled with reading, but he went to high school in New York. Like, I'm not saying he's lying about being a New Yorker. Like, I do think these things are true. I just find it funny that he shared specific things about his life to kind of like curate this, like, I'm a tough New Yorker vibe, which, like, I guess he is, but I don't know. It's just like too classic to me. So he became a cop because he wanted to reform police culture from within. This is because he became involved in this church. You might have heard of this. This is a big thing. I did not know about this man. Herbert Daughtry and the House of the Lord Pentecostal Church. He was involved with this as a teenager. So kind of like getting involved with a religion instead of the gangs. And then the religious people were like, you should become a police officer. And he stayed a part of this church. So this church was a very like political-esque church in a way. Herbert Daughtry is a pastor and community organizer. He is National Presiding Minister Emeritus over the House of the Lord churches, and he was in charge of that from 1959 to 2019, and he did a lot of community activism in New York since the 1970s. So that's why when I say like he was kind of getting involved in this group, it seems like this was a community active group targeting kids who were like trying to prevent them from being on the streets and being in crime in New York in the 60s, 70s. Keep in mind, lots of drugs, crack epidemic coming, etc., etc. So it seems like this community action group was involved with Eric Adams because he was a child who needed advocating. So this guy's advocacy began in the 1950s. He was involved in the SCLC, which you might know from learning about the civil rights movement, their Operation Breadbasket, and he was involved in community control of the schools in the 60s. He served as the chairman for the National Black United Front, as well as the founder and president for the African People's Christian Organization, and then he went to Ireland to see what the Irish people had going on, and he is a mentor of Eric Adams. So I feel like it was relevant to talk a little bit about this guy and his activism. I don't know a ton about him, but he did come up. Being a child in the 1970s, NYC seems scary. It does. Like, and I think a lot of boomers who are like scared of cities, it's because of like that. Like New York City really did go through some horrific crime, and like, God, it's bad. I don't know every detail of it, and a lot of it was because of drugs and lack of community support, I would imagine, and there's like white flight and racism and a lot, like there's a lot of layers there. But all that to say, being a child during that time seems very tumultuous. So he was a student in public school, and he really struggled. He said that once they put a sign with the word dummy on his desk, and he says he was so afraid of being asked to read out loud, you would just hope, please don't call on me. And then when he was in college, he overheard a documentary about learning disabilities, and that's when he realized he had dyslexia and allegedly got diagnosed with it. But actually, I don't think I ever saw that he got diagnosed. But apparently he saw this documentary or overheard a documentary and was like, oh, I am dyslexic. That's why reading has been so hard for me. So it seems like he was involved in the gang when he was very young, like 12, 13, 14, which is like when gangs really recruit. Gangs recruit out of middle schools. It's really, really sad. They go after kids who have troubled home lives and troubled family lives and kids that don't feel good at school. So I'm like not surprised at all that he was recruited by this gang, and he was like kind of involved in the gang. Then he got arrested. The police like scared him straight, and then he got involved in that like community organization, and it seems like he kind of, I don't want to say like left the gang life, but because he was like a child, but it seems like he was like starting to get into that and then decided like, no, I don't want to do that, is the vibe that I get. And then went on to graduate high school late, but still graduated high school. And low-key, when someone graduates high school late, I'm like, damn, it would have been easy for you to drop out and you didn't, so good for you. So his experience turned around when he was diagnosed in college. I went from a D student to the dean's list. So when he started getting accommodations for his dyslexia, he started having a lot more academic success. So he has been a strong advocate of early dyslexia screenings in public school. And he says that he will never forget or forgive how the school system failed him and his mother, Dorothy, who was raising 6 children in poverty. My mom had no idea where to get help from and navigating the challenges of the bureaucracy of the Department of Education. We thought you just have to try harder. So, like I said, graduated high school in 1979, began attending college and working as a mechanic and a mailroom clerk in the Brooklyn DA's office. He got an associate degree from the New York City College of Technology. Not sure when he graduated. He went to the New York City Police Academy and graduated second in his class in 1984. So, graduated high school in 1979, graduated Police Academy in 1984. I think Police Academy is like 6 months, maybe a year, I don't know. And he graduated with a bachelor's degree in 1992, so during his police career. So it does seem like he had to fight to get an education and worked his way through his education. Worked his way through, meaning like the dyslexia and financially. Like he received his degrees as a working adult. So that was his childhood. Before I get into his adulthood, I wanted to read a little bit of this article. As some of you are already pointing out, like, did he say that stuff? This was a New York Times article titled, "Mayor Adams Loves a Good Tale, Some of Them May Be Tall. The New York City mayor has made an art form of telling stories about himself that are nearly impossible to verify and adding fresh details to often told anecdotes." So if there's one thing, and this is literally straight from this article, we're going to read part of it now and then part of it towards the end. If there's one thing that Mayor Eric Adams has shown in his rise to power in New York City, it's that he knows the value of telling a good story. There was one about the family's pet rat, Mickey, the one about the gang fight when he got hit in the head with a bat with a nail in it, and last week, Mr. Adams recalled a new detail from an oft-told story of his teenage arrest. Soon after he was taken into custody, he said the police discovered he was carrying fake gold chains. "I used to go and sell them on Canal Street to the tourists," he said at a community event. "Listen, the statute of limitations is forever." And that's what I mean when I say it's like to New York. He's like, yeah, and then I sold them on Canal Street. It's like, that's something ChatGPT would say. Like, did you though? And it's just too many things. Like, if it was just one or two classic New York things, I would get it, but it's like too many. 2 days later, Mr. Adams casually mentioned that he had been a skateboarder and knew how to do a few tricks. Ample evidence, including his very brief attempt at gingerly boarding a skateboard last year, suggest he may be rusty. And Mickey the rat, but Mickey was the name of the prostitute who you worked for. Sex worker, I should say. So that's what I mean. It's just like, I think he would have benefited from creative writing as a hobby. So since he ran, many of his stories seem intended for dramatic effort, kind of like a George Santos vibe. Mr. Adams' tendency to hyperbole strays into policy as well. Like, he just really be saying anything. Part of the mayor's campaign strategy involved highlighting his working class upbringing, underscoring the challenges that he faced in Queens, and so showing that he understands the struggles New Yorkers faced. By the time he was 17, he said he was a so-called squeegee man, a gang member, and a victim of police brutality. Mr. Adams' press secretary questions the fairness, suggesting that memories from the mayor's youth and young adult life never happened without anything to substantiate these suggestions. In his 62 years on the planet, the mayor has experienced more than 32 million moments, the vast majority of which have not been documented by even the most zealous members of the New York City Press Corps. So, basically saying he has a moment for every minute he's been alive. Like, they're like, well, you can't verify it. Like, all these stories that he's telling. Like, yeah, I guess you can't verify that you were a victim of police brutality. You're right. I guess you can't verify that you were selling gold chains. You're right. Can't verify that you were a skateboarder either. And again, if it was just one thing, but it's like everything. The police brutality, though, they were like beating the shit out of black children. So that one, just statistically, is probably true. But the skateboard on Canal Street, that's where you lose me. That's where you lose me, bro. So he started in the New York City, and we will come back to the skateboarding. Someone like low-key proved him wrong. It's proved that he didn't skateboard, and his response is funny. So bear with us till the end. So he started out as transit police and then moved to NYPD because apparently they merged. I don't know, New York City politics. He worked at the 6th Precinct in Greenwich Village. And this is another one of his tales. In 1986, white police officers raised their guns at him when he was working as a plainclothes officer. He was mistaken for a suspect. And during the 1990s, he served as president of the Grand Council of Guardians, and an African American Patrolmen's Association. So pretty early in his policing career, he started doing more like committee activism, policy, political type things. He also worked with the Nation of Islam in the 1990s in patrolling crime-ridden housing projects. He met with their leader. Apparently some people got mad at him for this later, that he worked with them. But one thing you will see about him, he'll be friends with anyone. Like, and he would go to, what do they say? He would go to the opening of a letter. Like, if there's an event and a camera, he's like, I would love to join you. So he's worked with tons of people, so whatever. Like, that just literally looks like if you were like, make me a stereotypical 1990s New York cop. Like, the mustache, are you kidding me? It's a lot. We've confirmed Eric Adams is not Eric Andre. He does not like rats and Paw Patrol as propaganda. Not the opening of a letter. No, for real. Like, he'll go anywhere. So then in 1995, he served as an escort for Mike Tyson when he was released from jail following his rape conviction. So Mike Tyson was convicted of rape, and Eric Adams was there. No, he's not the one on the right. He's the one, I think this is like his like formal outfit when he graduated or something, and I think that's his mom. Friends with anyone except the rats, pretty much. So Mike Tyson is convicted of rape. Eric Adams is like, I'm here for you. And he was actually investigated by the police department for this action. When I first saw this, I assumed that the police were protecting a predator, because that's what police do. No. He did this as a private citizen. He said, Mike Tyson, I got you, bro. So he was investigated by the police department because they were like, you are not supposed to associate with convicted felons. Like, I guess as a police officer, you're not supposed to hang out with felons. And in an interview, he said he had been asked to accompany Tyson by a former mentor of the boxer from Brooklyn. The mentor asked me, can we go with Tyson on his release to make sure he gets home correctly, speak with him after being out as law enforcement officers about how to turn his life around? What the fuck? And although Adams was certainly aware he was escorting a convicted felon, he questioned whether the activity qualified as a violation of the patrol guide. Associating with a known felon, you sit down, you're having activities with them. It's not being around a known felon. Many people in law enforcement, particularly if you come from a high crime community, you have brothers in the criminal justice system. And then he added, I was never brought up on any official charges. So his excuse is he's like, it's fine that I was an unofficial police escort for Mike Tyson because there's police officers who have family members who are felons. And it's like, okay, well, that's a different fucking thing. Like, that's a different thing. Like, you being a police officer and your cousin having a felony on their record, it is what it, but like, how does that equate to you going out of your way to hang out with Mike Tyson? And then he's like, I was investigated, but they never charged me. So in response to Rudy Giuliani's election as mayor, he co-founded 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care, which was an advocacy group for Black police officers who were seeking criminal justice reform, and they spoke out against police brutality and racial profiling. They also held tutorials that taught young Black men how to deal with police if they're detained. And one thing I want to say, like, I know I'm probably not the spokesperson for this, but I always see, like, with these police profiling initiatives, they're always talking about young Black men when Black women are victims of police brutality in astonishingly high numbers. So, like, obviously police brutality shouldn't be happening, but if, like, you're going to be educating people about police brutality, shouldn't it be, like, everyone that suffers from police brutality? But anyway, they held tutorials to teach young Black men how to deal with police, like turning on the car's light, putting your hands on the wheel, de-escalating, whatever. A lot of people criticized this at the time, too. Al Sharpton said that they were teaching young Black people how to live under oppression. I see both sides to this argument. But just to kind of give you context of his life, he had a son in 1996 with his girlfriend. Couldn't find pictures of his son as a baby. Here's a picture of them as adults. His ex-girlfriend, Christina Coleman, and his son, who is now an adult, is a filmmaker, a rapper, and you'll see him. He comes up in a couple campaign videos. So him and the girlfriend split when Jordan was a toddler, and Jordan was raised in New Jersey with his mom, his stepfather, and his brother, but has been close to Adams his entire life. So very much seems like he's pretty involved in his son's life. He lives in New Jersey. That's not that far away from New York. And it seems, for all intents and purposes, they have a positive relationship. So the cops hate him, high key. He is a cop, and the cops fucking hate him because, again, his main career in coppery is talking about racial profiling and police brutality and these things. From the jump, he wanted to reform from the inside. And he was a politician from day one. And I don't say that as an insult, it's just the truth. He came from this social justice organization who social justice is political, told him to become a police officer to fight for reform on the inside. That seems like that was always his MO. And then he received his education with kind of a policy route. So in 2006, he was put under surveillance and investigated by the NYPD because he went on television and was as a police officer, and you're not allowed to do that. If you go on TV and you're as a police officer, you have to have permission from them to do that. Very common, very normal. That would be true for me as a teacher. If I went and was I'm speaking on behalf of my district, that would not be okay. I can go and say, I'm speaking as a person, I'm speaking on my behalf, say, aside from my employer, as a private citizen, that's fine. He didn't do that. He said, as a police officer, you're not allowed to do that. So they opened an investigation, charged him with disseminating misinformation, divulging official police business, and speaking as a representative of the department without permission. He retired from the police force with the rank of captain shortly after being found guilty of this. So that is the kind of awkward end to his policing career. It's they did release his disciplinary records much later. So originally they were we're not going to do that. And then they did, but he was penalized for this. He lost 15 vacation days for a TV appearance. So him retiring after that goes to show me he wanted to retire anyway. It's not like they made him quit. Grandpa Ham, thank you for subscribing. So he has been a frequent critic of the department, like we said, has created multiple organizations against police brutality, against racial profiling. And he said that NYPD brass were retaliating against him for years of agitating for reform. I believe this. I believe that to be true. And these organizations, are documented. He did work on these things. And I believe that the police would target him and charge him with things and investigate him for that. It's almost like they're a gang. And anyone that speaks outside the gang has to face penalties for that. It seems like there were times he was so close to a good idea, but always missed the mark. This is what I think about him. I think he just does whatever sounds good in the moment to him. Whatever he thinks, this is going to be good for me and this sounds good and I like the way this rolls off the tongue, he just does it. So a lot of times those are things that are good because they roll off the tongue well. But I don't think he actually, means much behind what he says, which we will circle back to what he did with the police when he was mayor. So according to the documents, like we said, he was found guilty, and he rose to the ranks even though he was a critic, and they really, really hated him. So, yikes. After a terror threat was made against the transit system in 2005, that's when he talked on the TV. He charged in a press conference and did an interview that the NYPD did not equally deploy cops to neighborhoods across the city. And he also announced that the terror threat was politically motivated, coming as Bloomberg was facing re-election and had been criticized for refusing to participate in a mayoral debate. And on TV, he put, as the leader of 100 blacks in law enforcement, but because he referred to himself as police captain 3 times in the interview, that's why they found him guilty of this. That's why they knocked the 15 vacation days, but then he kind of quit afterwards anyway. The respondent pointed out that he is being charged for the first time for conduct he has openly engaged in for 15 years. But this is his final falling out with the police. He got cleared on 2 other charges because he did not give false information and did not divulge official business. So he ended up not getting charged with those. But he did get charged with being on TV. Because he did it. You were on TV. So this is interesting. In the pre-dawn hours of January 19th, 1996, long before a candidate for mayor Eric Adams turned left on Atlantic Avenue onto Classen Avenue in Brooklyn, he was heading home after studying for the lieutenant's exam at a friend's house. That's when he noticed the dark-colored sedan pulled inside his lane and had a gun barrel pointing out of the side of the driver's window. That's when he heard someone call his name. Adams stomped on the accelerator and the bullet hit the rear view of the car he was driving, shattering the glass. All these many years later, Adams can't help but wonder if the shooter was actually one of his fellow police officers. I'm not sure. I was at the peak of the fight with the department. I don't know if it was some officer, someone in their drunken rage said, enough of this guy. At the time, he was the chairman of these groups, both of which frequently and publicly blasted the NYPD for failing to serve Black New Yorkers and Black officers. When I look back, I'm amazed I was able to get out of that department alive. At the time, somebody took a shot at him. He said he'd been catching hell from fellow cops and many of the department's top brass for his persistent criticism of the NYPD. I was getting a lot of harassment. I was getting a lot of threats. And then, like we said, there was the thing with Mike Tyson. There was another guy that he was hanging out with who was on federal weapons charges that apparently he went to a protest with him. So he's gotten in trouble with the police multiple times. As a redacted government employee, I cannot imagine claiming my job while commenting on something publicly. I was almost shocked that he doesn't do what Curtis Slowal does about a similar situation. So it's worse than a gang. They don't even have each other's backs. But he's like betraying the gang by talking about it. So he was investigated 4 different times by the Internal Affairs Bureau while he was a police officer. He said he would get a ping on his beeper every night at 11 with no discernible number. And then one day the number popped up and he asked the IAB to see where it came from. And it was their phone. And he said, can you imagine that level of hate? For 5 years, all you thought about was, let me beep Eric Adams. I don't know if I believe that. Like, why were they randomly beeping you? And he, like we said, didn't have that many charges other than the TV thing. The 2 other accusations were found to be substantiated. The hanging out with Mike Tyson didn't result in any charges, anything like that. And in those early years, the city was a very different place. The number of murders hit 1,450 the year he joined the force, and increasing to a record high of 2,245 in 1990. So very high crime environment that he's a police officer in. The police hate him. Yikes. So this is like him talking about it in an interview. And again, it's just hard for me to take him seriously. He said that he and his partner would ride the subway all night long from the 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift. Radios didn't operate correctly. There were many days if there was an altercation, you had to be smart. Don't do it while you're going across the bridge. Don't do it while you're in a tunnel. What are you talking about? What do you mean if you're getting into an altercation? You're the police officer. And you being like, don't do it here implies that you're the aggressor. What, like, genuinely, what are you talking about? And he recalled the practice of cops banging their batons against steel subway pillars as they entered stations, hoping for backup. That also makes no sense. I thought cops did that to be like, I'm in here, motherfuckers. Like, it was like a power thing. The sound a baton makes is unique. You'd hope there was a cop in the station. What? And then he was talking about the Morgue Boys, which was a gang of cops who were charged with robbing drug dealers and stealing their cash and selling drugs. The police during this time were awful. I know they're always awful, but during this time particularly. The Morgue Boys in the 73rd Precinct, those were very bad guys. They said, Eric Adams. I don't know if they were actually following me. Like, just all of his stories kind of kill me. And then with him getting shot at, he didn't say if it was the Morgue Boys or not, but he said he drove to the precinct and the sergeant on duty was like, don't file a report. So again, this crazy thing with no evidence. Again, this crazy thing happened to you that can't be documented at all. I think he's trying to say, don't pull someone over in the tunnel because the radio sucks and you can't call for backup. But, like, don't pull someone over in the tunnel for traffic. But he was on the subway. He's talking about when he was on the subway. So, like, what, like, That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're riding on the subway and the subway's in a tunnel, what do you mean don't start something? Like, what are you talking? You were already on the subway. So, magically, another terrible thing that is unverifiable because they told him not to file a report. But again, I kind of believe that. Like, that's what they would say. So, he said that NYPD detectives canvassed the area and were unable to cover any evidence. So, he said they dropped the investigation about him being shot at and someone calling him by name. So, again, it's just like everything. This is a different thing he got in trouble for. He was seen at a Harlem protest with a convicted felon named Omawale Clay. They, again, didn't end up charging him, but he was investigated. He was one of the Manhattan Eight, which was a group of self-described black nationalists charged by federal prosecutors for plotting to rob banks to free two of their peers who were jailed for their roles in an armed car robbery. So these people were acquitted of conspiracy, but they did find a cache of guns, prison guard uniforms, and homemade bombs in the apartment. So not okay that he was hanging out with them, I guess. Which, like, I think the whole way that we treat felons is fucked up. Like, once you serve your time, I think you should, like, you served your time. Like, that's the point of time. And, like, policing and the prison system is fucked up. I think the way that we treat felons is fucked up. So I don't think it's fair to be like, you can't be seen around a felon if you're a police officer. I don't think that's fair. But what I do think is fair is that, like, they made this rule pretty clear and then he broke it multiple times. Like, I think it's a stupid rule, but, like, you are breaking the stupid rule that you guys thought of. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what kind of, to me, is that, like, you keep getting investigated for breaking rules that are, like, not that hard to break. And neither time was it like, oh, well, it was my brother, it was this, it was that. It just always seems just like random ass people that you really didn't need to be hanging out with anyway. Like, it's a stupid rule. So if you're going to break it, it should be for a decent reason, in my opinion. So he said he attended the rally at a Harlem church and he was like an acquaintance with this guy. And he's saying that he offered him a ride and dropped him off at a subway stop. At a different time in New York history, I committed my life to stopping crime. My understanding is that if they were not found guilty of conspiracy, but they were found guilty of a weapons charge, I'm a big believer that people should be held accountable for the charges they face. And his response is just like always nothing. There is more in his, like, cop lore, but I low-key don't care. Like, he was a cop for a while. He was fighting with the police a lot. He was doing political work a lot. He broke some rules. And in the 90s, this is when he began eyeing a political career, and his ultimate goal was to become New York City mayor. This is also why he went to college. So the reason he finished college while working as a police officer was to be a politician. Lots of people do fields of public service to become politicians. He reminds me of some superintendents I've seen where, like, they will go through, and they being a lot of times it's men, will go through, like, education or will go through, like, police usually to try and get to a political office. I've seen as two very common paths. So he spoke to William Lynch Jr., who was an advisor to a different mayor, and that's who was like, you should go for a bachelor's degree and rise the ranks of the NYPD. And so he supported this guy and made a controversial candidate about the New York State comptroller. He said that if Badillo, who was the New York State comptroller, which I don't really know what that is, New York politics is weird, but this political figure, he said if Badillo was concerned about the Hispanic community, he would have married a Hispanic woman and not a white Jewish woman. Why would you say that? And this is in, like, the 90s. Like, he's a nobody at this time. And he just said that, unprompted. And these comments became a point of turmoil in the election, and they created a lot of controversy for Dinkins, who ultimately lost the election. So, yeah. Oh, are people fighting about MAGA? Whatever. Oh, why are you saying I'm pro-MAGA? I'm a journalist, please. We know what this is. Yeah, the person who's saying that Paw Patrol is propaganda. Crucify me. Crucify me on the cross of conservatism then. So, He ran for Congress in 1994 against incumbent Major Owens in the Democratic primary, but he failed to receive enough signatures to get on the ballot. He claimed his petition signatures had been stolen by someone on behalf of Owens, but the police found no evidence of this. So he's like, I was running and then they stole my signatures. You just didn't have it. And then he registered as a Republican, and then went back to being a Democrat in 2001. And he said that this was a protest move against failed Democratic leadership. And this is what I mean when I say I don't think he actually has any beliefs. Like, I think he literally just does whatever. Like, the cop is a registered Republican. Shocker. For a brief time, he was a Republican. Here's a picture of him in 1999. So he's being a cop. The cops hate him. He's hanging out with Mike Tyson. He ran and then didn't do it and then lied. A lot going on. After he retired from being a police officer, he ran for New York State Senate. He was elected and served 4 terms until 2013, and then he became Brooklyn borough president. He placed billboards around parts of Brooklyn bemoaning pants sagging. Great value, Obama. Like, that's what kills me, is I think that he thinks he has the charisma of Barack Obama. Like, I think he firmly believes that him and Barack Obama are peers. In Eric Adams' eyes, him and Barack Obama are, like I said, peers. Like, he's like, yeah, we're both charismatic black politicians. Like, to him, that's what he believes. So he also published an instructional video for parents to teach them how to search their child's room for contraband, which we will watch now.
When a person was shot doors from my house, I realized how important my crusade is of removing illegal handguns off the streets of New York. Hi, I'm New York State Senator Eric Adams, and for 22 years I wore a bulletproof vest and stood on the street corners and protected children and families in the city of New York. I'm asking you to join me in this crusade of removing illegal handguns off our streets and out of our homes. Please come and join me inside my house as I show you how simple items such as bamboo paper can be an indicator of marijuana use, or a cut of straw can be an indicator of using cocaine. I will show you how to search a room to ensure that you remove illegal handguns and other contraband from your home. What I would like to show here is to empower parents on how to search a room inside their home.
The music.
It's imperative that you should know what's inside your household. And no one can state that you can't search a room in your own home. You write the Constitution. There are no First Amendment rights inside your household. It is your obligation and responsibility not only to protect the child that may be using an illegal drug or carrying an illegal
And it's
gun,
like, it's
but you
not
also
a
have
bad
to protect the members
idea
of the
to
household,
talk about
their younger
this,
brothers,
but it's
their younger
just
sisters,
like,
and the other elder members of the household. So by periodically sending a message to your home
What?
that there's
So
no
many
rooms
monitors.
off limits, you don't believe in locked doors, your house is open to inspection by your
he
house.
literally is like, parents, turn your house into a police state. And like I said, I don't think it's a bad take to be like, parents, you should talk to your kids about drugs, look at their stuff, here's what's to look for. I don't think that's a bad take, but just him doing it, I can't take it seriously.
And the members of your house. The message is, you expect your children to do what's right, but you always have to inspect what you expect. And that's the key to providing some preventive safety. So if you come to a room like this, you can start out, I always recommend to start out in a periodic fashion so you'll be used to going through the room.
Like, what do you mean a periodic
the various
fashion?
items in the room. You can look at a jewelry box. A jewelry box of this nature, maybe a simple jewelry box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding.
My
For
favorite
instance,
part is
a
he's
gun
just
could be
finding
hidden.
this
A small
naturally.
valuable weapon could be hidden inside a jewelry box. Look at the various colognes and
Yes, this
perfumes
is
and
his
photos
house.
and pictures. You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see what exactly
rolling
is your
back.
child carrying in addition to a book. Something simple as a crack pipe, a used crack pipe. Could have found it on the street. That's quite possible. But this is a discussion piece where you should start speaking with him to find out what is he doing with it.
you find a used crack pipe in your child's popular knapsack, that's a discussion piece to ask them what they're doing with it.
And the whole use of drugs. This invokes conversations. Look at picture frames and behind them, cameras. Try to determine what's taking place. Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. What does that mean to find bullets? Does it mean your child is carrying a gun? No. Where there's smoke, there's possible fire. Where there's a bullet, there's possibly a gun. You should engage in a conversation and find out what are they doing with the item, and this empowers the parents. Look at all the items inside the room and feel around and see what's the possibility. Something simple as a baby doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs. Run your hands over the pillows and see if you feel anything.
The bag of marijuana and the baby doll
is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I would reach in, see what it is. This person hit inside a pillow, a gun. Maybe something that you'll think that can't be hidden there, but it can. And what happens not only when the person who is carrying this illegal gun is in possession of it, but also a child that comes into the room and plays on the bed, they find this gun. Let me tell you what a child would do. A child would take this gun, and because the trigger pull is so hard, they normally take the gun and they point it in their direction to pull down on it. So many gun accidents take place merely because a child discovers a gun in the room and believes it's a toy, and they play with the gun. Just look and see what's inside your bookcases. It could be more than just books. Perfect place to hide cocaine.
That's so much cocaine,
inside
too.
The room. My message to you, you have an obligation to protect your home. The First Amendment does not apply to the right of parents to go through their homes to remove contraband or any other unsafe item. There are no First Amendment rights in your home. You have a duty and obligation.
So, absolutely fucking insane. That is my favorite video ever that I think I've ever seen. And that is what he's up to in New York Congress. Two New York State Democrats aligned with Republicans created a standoff over who was going to be the next leader. That same year, he was one of, I skipped a sentence. Adams worked to foster a compromise to nominate John Sampson as the minority leader. So he is working with other people. Gang, I'm late. Is he just giving parents paranoia and encouraging them to violate their kids' space? Yes. There is no First Amendment rights in your home. He's going to cross-stitch over my entryway expeditiously. So he was one of 24 state senators to vote in favor of marriage equality. This was before nationwide Supreme Court we had marriage equality. So he spoke in favor of this during a debate before the vote, and the bill did fail, but he voted for the same thing again in 2011 when New York's Marriage Equality Act came into effect. He became the chair of the Senate Racing and Wagering Committee and was praised for his engagement. He would spend hours traveling and visiting racetracks to study the issues. And he became under investigation for his handling of choosing an operator to run the gambling operation at the Aqueduct Racetrack in Queens. A report conducted by the state inspector was generally critical of his judgment as he leaked information on the bidding process, fundraised from potential bidders, and attended victory celebration for the company awarded the contract. So literally, from the jump, he's getting investigated. He was investigated as a police officer. He's being investigated as a senator. And the matter, The matter was referred to the Department of Justice, but it took no action. He admitted no wrongdoing and called it a political hit piece. He was one of 8 members to not vote to expel, or to voted to not expel Senator Hiram Monserrate, because Hiram Monserrate was convicted of assault for dragging his girlfriend down an alleyway and slashing her face with a piece of glass. And Eric Adams said, "You can stay. You can stay." He was a vocal opponent of the stop and frisk policy. Stop and frisk basically means if you're walking on the street and the police feel like you're doing something, i.e. you're a person of color, the police can be like, "We're stopping you and we're searching you." Not great. So that predominantly affects young Black and Latino men. And in 2000, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights said it constituted racial profiling. And in 2011, he supported calling for a federal investigation into stop and frisk policies. And he championed a bill to stop the NYPD from gathering data about individuals who had been stopped but not charged, because the NYPD would gather information. This sounds like a conspiracy, but it's literally true. I saw this somewhere, so maybe it's not true. But police forces will have community events and use those community events to gather information on people. So, like, when they're like, oh, come with your children and give free ice cream and whatever, they're, like, taking photos and, like, writing down people's names and, like, actually gathering surveillance information on you. So, he was against that. Like, he is pretty anti-police. Like, for him being the literal police, he's pretty anti-police. He served as the co-chair for the New York State legislators against illegal guns, with 5 other state lawmakers who wore hooded sweatshirts in the legislative chamber in 2012 to protest the shooting of Trayvon Martin. So he is, like, very much still on his activism. So he's in Senate here. Here's some more pictures of him. He's definitively a politician now. He is not a police officer in any capacity. He is a politician. He becomes a Brooklyn borough president. He was elected with 90.8% of the vote, more than any other candidate that year. And then in 2017, he was reelected, and in both of his campaigns, he was unopposed in the Democratic primaries. We're going to watch part of the Z-Way interview. We're going to watch part of it. It's so good. So here's him running in 2013. Very similar look and vibe. Under the New York City Charter, borough presidents must submit uniform land use review procedure recommendations on certain uses of land through their borough. He used his recommendation to propose additional affordable housing and the relocation of municipal agencies to reduce density in downtown Brooklyn and help create jobs for community residents rather than having it be government offices. So pretty popular at the time, like pretty popular politician. Just some more general lore. He introduced a bill to require lactation rooms in all municipal buildings. He did a lot for education. He made 2-year colleges free. He expanded access to higher education. Like, he, for all intents and purposes, seemed pretty popular and pretty good at his job. And, like, he was doing things that are generally popular. Like I said, it seems like to me, he just kind of does whatever he feels like is good in that moment. So he's done a lot of stuff that was popular and good. In 2016, he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and so he became vegan, and then was like, we all have to become vegan now too. Not really, but kind of. So the Office of the Brooklyn Borough President launched a plant-based nutrition page on its website. They encouraged vegan and plant-based lifestyles. They had printable handouts produced by the office, and he urged city council to pass a resolution called Ban the Bologna, aiming for schools across the city to stop serving processed meats. He also avidly supported meatless Mondays in public schools. So, and yes, I have done George Santos. It was a while ago, though. Very, very on his vegan vibe. He said that he switched to this because of the diabetes, and he researched alternatives to lifelong insulin injections and then sought the opinions of physicians. He was plant-based, not vegan. Is that different? So he made lifestyle changes to treat his diabetes, a whole food plant-based diet, removing animal products, processed sugar, salt, oil, and processed starches. He also began exercising using an exercise bike and a treadmill. Within 6 months, he lost 30 pounds, reversed his diabetes, and reduced his blood pressure and cholesterol level. So that takes a lot of self-discipline that I don't have. And he said he wants to encourage others to switch to a healthier diet, and that some of public health spending for diabetes should go towards lifestyle changes rather than treating disease, which I agree with. He also wrote a book about this, but this was later. This was in 2020. His Healthy at Last, a plant-based approach to preventing and reversing diabetes. And this is like really his thing. And he originally said that he started taking the medication and then switched to a plant-based diet. But then later in 2023, he was in a documentary and he said that he never used medication. He also endorsed not taking medication that a doctor recommends and doing the plant-based diet instead. So his veganism is a little touch and go. Back to his job as Brooklyn Borough President. He criticized the use of excessive force in the arrest of Eric Garner, who died after being placed in a chokehold that is prohibited by NYPD regulations, and the arrest of postal carrier Glenn Gary's, who was determined to not have committed any crime. So again, just the way in his policing career, he is still very, very passionate about police reform, racial profiling by the police. That's like kind of his number one thing. After the killings of NYPD officers, Weon Liu and Rafael Ramos, he wrote an editorial calling on police officers and the community to work with each other. After a school shooting, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, Florida, he joined efforts of Brooklyn students, and they organized an emergency meeting and a protest to demand stricter gun laws. That same month, after a correctional officer was beat at a detention center on Rikers Island, Adams stood outside the detention center to express his support to reinstate solitary confinement in prisons. Yeah. You heard that correctly. So being like anti-police, 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 oh, within the same month, now I'm in favor of solitary confinement. Which is what kind of tells me he just does whatever sounds good to him in the moment. Vibes-based governance, truly. In 2014, he established the One Brooklyn Fund, which was a nonprofit which was doing grant writing and local business stuff. People characterize this as a conduit for his public profile and allowing non-campaign pay-to-play contributions from developers and lobbyists. So basically, there's a lot of rules about when you donate to someone's campaign. It's like subject to all these things and like disclosures and publicness. You can donate to someone's nonprofit, much lower key, because it's a nonprofit. So whenever a politician has a nonprofit, it's like a little bit of a red flag. I feel like he'd be so much better if he was never a cop. Like, no brainwashing. I think he might have been born this way. I don't know. He's like ChatGPT before there was ChatGPT. He was investigated twice over fundraising. Why isn't my thing working? Oh. There we go. He was investigated twice. The first was when potential attendees were asked if they would provide financial support. And in 2016, the office found that he had mistakenly licensed the use of the Brooklyn Borough Hall for a mayor's office event. So he does have some like sketchiness with his finance stuff here. And then on November 17th, 2020, he announced his candidacy for the mayor of New York. Why aren't you loading?
I'm Eric Adams, and for me, this is where it all began. Some people talk about police brutality. I want to tell you how it is to live through it. We moved from Brooklyn to Queens when I was young. It was not always easy. As a child, I'll carry a garbage bag full of clothing to school, afraid that we would be evicted from our house for not paying the mortgage. When I was 15, my brother and I fell into trouble. We were arrested, and we were brought here to the 103rd Precinct in South Jamaica, Queens. One of the police officers stated, "How do you like a beat down?" He brought us downstairs, and he beat us. He kicked us over and over again. When my mom came to get us, they said, "Leave them. They'll never amount to anything." That was a dark place. My life could have gone a different way, full of bitterness, but I had people who loved me and a determination to change things. So I became a police officer to bridge the gap between us, to make us all safer, and to take on systemic racism from within. It's why I took on police brutality while I was a police officer myself. Why I became a state senator to take on corruption
so much lore
and
in
fight
one
for
commercial.
civil rights for everyone. Fighting the rights for individuals merely to marry the people they love. And why I'm proud to serve as Brooklyn Borough President to make local government work for people
Let's support
again.
solitary confinement.
We're in a dark place right now, a dark moment for New York and America.
Keep in mind, COVID
Whether
2020.
it's the pandemic or violence in our streets, we don't feel safe. And too often, city government makes things worse with inefficiency
Solitary is a
that
dark
leads
place,
to
too.
inequality and holds our people back. But I learned some time ago, sometimes when you're in a dark place, you're not buried, you're just planted. The question is, what are we
I don't
going
know
to
what
do
his
with the
siblings do.
fruits
That's a
of
good
our
question.
harvest? I say it's time to grow. And that means it's time to rise up. I'm fired up! I'm fired up! The fight can't only be in the streets. It must also be in the agencies that patrol the streets. That is how we change policing.
He's hoping the
Over
solitary
600
confinement
shootings
people will
since
become
June,
cops.
And we have yet to see a comprehensive plan to stop having these communities live in terror.
You can't just say
do us
comprehensive
no
plan.
good merely walking down a block with us. You do us good walking into our businesses and giving us the economic stability that we continue to grow. We will not allow the devastation of coronavirus to make us stay away from helping our neighbors. We're facing a crisis unlike anything we've ever seen before. Businesses are closing, crime is rising, homelessness is soaring, and our families are struggling. To be truly progressive and overcome these
He kills the
challenges,
transitions, though.
we have to fix government and eliminate the inefficiencies that are holding us back. We can't have an education system that fails to put our children on a pathway of success and leaves them at a dead end of crime and hopelessness. To revitalize our city, New Yorkers of all backgrounds need to feel safe and secure, that they'll have
He must have
quality
invested
schools,
in a tripod.
affordable health
For
care and
mayor
housing,
now.
and a fair
2
shot
weeks to
get
flatten
ahead.
the curve.
I spend my life
Please.
tackling these issues, improving our communities, making New York families safer. Yes, we have big challenges.
This is
But we're
his
New Yorkers.
announcement of running,
We
not a
respond,
commercial.
we
So
take
that's why it's
action.
longer.
And with the right leadership, we will rise up again.
So that's him. I forgot about the elbow high fives. The jog up the steps was an Obama shot if I've ever seen one. So immediately when he runs, people are like, "Don't you live in New Jersey?" So he offers a home tour. I haven't seen this.
A leading contender in the race for New York City mayor is defending his Brooklyn residency.
Eric Adams opened the doors to his home today after reports questioned where he really lives, but his opponents jumped on it. CBS 2 political reporter Marsha Kramer with more now on the race for mayor.
Welcome to my humble home.
Eric Adams allowing reporters inside a Brooklyn apartment he owns, trying to say, "I live here, I really live here," after questions were raised about whether he really spends his time in Fort Lee, New Jersey with his girlfriend.
How foolish would someone have to be to run to be the mayor of the city of New York and live in another municipality?
Questions were raised after reporters for Politico found him sleeping in his office night after night, going to New Jersey, doing mayoral forms from New Jersey.
I never hid that I own a co-op in New Jersey with Tracy, but I live, my primary residence is in Brooklyn.
Adams' son Jordan, who lives in New Jersey, joined him at the press conference. The former cop broke down in tears, talking about how his
now he's
relationship with
crying.
his son has suffered because of his political ambitions.
Wasn't there for his football games, his birthdays.
Adams' mayoral opponents were skeptical, demanding he prove where he sleeps and how often he goes to New Jersey by releasing his Easy Pass records.
He has to answer questions with 2 weeks left in the mayor's race. I do think that releasing any and all records will be good for the discussion.
Just release your Easy Pass records of your city vehicle.
Catherine Garcia released a statement saying, "New Yorkers deserve transparency." Eric Adams has a problematic record of not being fully honest or transparent with the voters of New York, she said.
Can we just have some real talk for a minute here? This is bizarre.
Adams was asked if he would make his Easy Pass records available.
Easy Pass records of the city vehicle is public information. You can get that anytime you want.
But when we called the borough president's office to ask for the records, a spokesman said, "Let me look into this and I'll get back to you." I'm Marsha Kramer, CBS 2 News.
So yeah, he shows this random ass apartment, and then during the tour, they open the fridge and there's a ton of like non-vegan things. Like there's salmon, there's ranch dressing, there's takeout containers. And although they claimed that the apartment is his primary residence, they said, "Oh, that food in the fridge was a gun. Stop. His campaign said all that random food was his son's, who sometimes sleeps there. So, yeah. Obviously. In his campaign, he really focused on crime and public safety. And after he announced this mayoral campaign, he really got a lot of heat for having in-person events because it was, again, 2020. Didn't he just say 3 minutes ago his son was estranged? No, that's because they were like, why are you running for mayor? You literally live in New Jersey. And he cried. And he was like, I didn't get to go to my son's football games. It's a lot. I can't. But, thank you, first-time person, for being here. I'm not a professor. So he's hosting in-person campaign events in 2020 and 25 people, 18 people. And he later was like, oh, there was only 8 people. We wore masks, etc., etc., etc. And he has so much empathy for criminals, he wants to police them even harder. So while Adams was against stop and frisk as a police officer, as a child, and as a state senator, he supported stop and frisk in his 2021 mayoral campaign. He said, if you have a police department where you're saying you can't stop and question, that's not a responsible form of policing. So again, he literally just says anything. And for much of the race, he trailed Andrew Yang. I forgot Andrew Yang ran for mayor in the polls, but he grew stronger as the election went on and crime was going up in New York. So people really liked that he was a tough on crime candidate. And from what I've gathered, New York does like rank choice voting. And so like there were a lot of other candidates that people like had smaller differences. So it just kind of seemed like a strange election in which he won. So while running for office, he got a lot of shit for the fact that him and his girlfriend live in New Jersey. Like literally him and his girlfriend own an apartment in New Jersey. So yeah. Rank choice started with Zoran. Oh, no, it says that this was the first one, but this is from Wiki. So if it's wrong, I'm sorry. I think Zoran was the second time. NY is a very red state, but the city makes it blue, almost purple at this point. And this is for mayor, so just for the city. So he completed a come-from-behind victory where he was declared the winner ahead of Catherine Garcia, Maya Wiley, Andrew Yang, and others in their first major race to use ranked choice of voting. Following his primary victory, he hosted a series of political fundraisers in the Hamptons and in Martha's Vineyard and vacationed in Monte Carlo, which people were like, that's bullshit because you ran being like, oh, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up hard. I grew up like blue collar in the streets like you. He also faced Republican Curtis Silva in the general election, and he was elected in a landslide. Like, the Republican running for mayor of New York is probably not going to get elected. So really the primary is what matters in it. So he wins the Democratic primary closest to Catherine Garcia. She came in like second, I guess. She was a public official. You saw her in the campaign video saying she didn't like him. And he is sworn in as New York City's 110th mayor. They do their swearing in Times Square at the ball drop. That's like something they've done for a while.
We have breaking news. New year, new mayor. Right now, Eric Adams is being sworn in as the 110th mayor of New York City. Let's go live to Times Square.
Would you please raise your right hand and repeat?
That's a picture of his mom.
I, Eric Adams.
That's his son.
I, Eric Adams.
I, Eric Adams,
Mask
Do
off.
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Charter of the City
and the Charter of the City
of New York,
and
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of
the mayor of the City of New York,
of the mayor of the City of New York,
according to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I don't know why it's awkward. Like, it just seems awkward. Everything in 2020 was awkward. Like, I guess technically this is the or 2021, but still, it's awkward. Like, why is it awkward? The way, like, no one's clapping.
Tomorrow, January 1st, marks Mayor Adams' first full day in office. We have continuing coverage on CBS.
So, after getting elected, he reconfirmed his pledge to reinstate plainclothes police to deal with gun violence. Some Black Lives Matter activists denounced the effort, but Eric Adams said that this was grandstanding. So immediately, like, he folds on, like, everything. Like, he's a flip-flopper on many, many issues. God, wait, what's the Guardian Angels? I can't get into this now. So anyway, on November 4th, 2021, he tweeted that he planned to take his first 3 paychecks as mayor in Bitcoin, and that New York would become the center for the cryptocurrency industry and other fast-growing innovative industries. He also announced that he was going to bring back the gifted and talented programs in schools, and then he appointed Chauncey Parker as the deputy mayor for public safety. He's such a good comedian by accident. He's such a comedic character. Might as well have come out of Pawnee. No, like, literally. He's like the Pawnee of New York. So shortly after his inauguration, polls found that he had a 63% approval rating. And then some other polls were found. The poll also found that 76% of New Yorkers were worried they could be a victim of a violent crime. And then in December 2023, his approval rating went down much lower. So it's literally just consistently going down. So what the fuck happened there? Why did everyone hate him? So shortly after becoming mayor, he asked the Conflict of Interest Board if he could have a waiver so that he could hire his brother Bernard for a $210,000 per year job in the NYPD to be the head of his personal security detail. I don't know if this was the same brother that he got arrested with. They allowed it, and Bernard started working on the job 2 days before Adams was inaugurated as mayor. He was accused of nepotism, and he said white supremacy and anarchists are on the rise, and suggested that he can trust no one in the police department as much as he can his own kin. He was also criticized for hiring Philip Banks III, a former NYPD commander, to serve as deputy mayor for public safety. Banks had also been the subject of a federal investigation of the FBI a couple years before, and he had already resigned from the police force. So he gets in and starts immediately Nepo hiring. 8 days into his tenure as mayor, there was an apartment fire in the Bronx that killed 17 people, including 8 children. In response, he announced a law requiring self-closing doors to prevent smoke and fires. This drew criticism because of the slow response he had in disaster funds to the actual victims. He also saw a significant uptick in crime during the first couple months. This was highlighted, like I said, the death of those NYPD officers. When responding to, or 2 other NYPD officers when they responded to a domestic disturbance in Harlem. In response to this, Eric Adams announced he would bring back the plainclothes police officers, which had been disbanded in 2020. So now he's becoming very pro-cop. So it seems like I said, whatever sounds good to him in the moment is what he's doing. So when he was younger, he was very anti-cop, and then now people are afraid of crime. So he was like, oh, I need to act like I loved being a cop, when he had built his career on being I hate the police, even though I am the police. So amid the crime spree, President Joe Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland visited New York and vowed to work with him to crack down on homemade firearms because they don't have serial numbers and can be acquired without background checks. And throughout his first year in office, crime continued to rise, and his plans were labeled as ineffectual. So, February 2022, a video leaked of him where he said he was a better cop than his cracker colleagues. He apologized and said, I apologize not only to those who heard it, but to New Yorkers, because they should expect more from me, which was inappropriate. Later in February, he implemented a zero tolerance policy for homeless people sleeping in subway cars or subway stations. And they said they were going to have mental health people come, but in reality, it was police. Activists were really against this. He took a stand against homeless encampments. They cleared more than 300 homeless encampments. They used the NYPD to track these and clear these. What precipitated this uptick in crime? COVID. So this was in like 2021. In 2022. So, yeah, I guess. In February 2022, 1,400 New York City municipal workers were fired because they were refusing to get vaccinated. And he did not create this initiative, but he continued it. And then in March 2022, he ended the city's vaccine mandate for indoor settings and the mask mandate in public schools. The same month, he announced that he would keep the vaccine mandate for private sector employees, but they created an exemption for athletes and performers. This is known as the Kyrie carve-out because it allowed unvaccinated Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving to play home basketball games. Because I guess New York had this law, like you have to be vaccinated to work in person, and then he was like, we'll make that except for athletes and performers, which is like just fucking like he just does whatever he feels in the moment. And then he really became against work from home while he was a mayor. Like, I feel like his time prior to mayor was like be as woke as possible, and then he became mayor and it was like be as annoying as possible. He's just flipping a coin for political decisions, for real. So he called on companies based in New York to require back to office, and he said, you can't stay home in your pajamas all day. I need the accountant in the office so they can go to the local restaurant so that we can make sure everyone is employed. And then he got COVID. So while he was quarantined for COVID, a man shot 10 people on a subway in New York, and Eric Adams worked virtually to issue a response to this and talked a lot more about guns. He unveiled his comprehensive blueprint for affordable housing as well during 2022. The plan was critiqued for being too vague, and it did not propose rezoning to build more housing, and it did not contain an actual estimate of how many housing units would be built. So he made a housing plan with no plan for housing. And in response to the influx of the asylum seekers in New York City, because if you remember during this time, Florida and Texas were like, we're tired of so many refugees coming to our states, we're sending them to sanctuary cities. And a ton of refugees got just like randomly put on a plane and sent to New York by Florida and Texas. So he announced plans to install humanitarian emergency response and relief center tent cities on Randall's Island, but then they closed the tent city and ended up moving all of the migrants to hotels in downtown Manhattan. They caught a lot of fire for this because they were spending so much money on these hotels, but like the whole situation was fucking annoying. This one, he handled it badly, but there was no good way to handle it. I think what like Florida and Texas did just put New York in a really weird position, and it was a very weird way to handle real human beings who are having a real life problem. They were very much used as political pawns, and the whole thing was just weird to me. So like, I don't really know what I would do if I was the mayor in that situation, because like another state just sends a ton of people who are political pawns. He's like Ben Wyatt as mayor of Icetown. He wants to be a mayor the way a kid wants to be an astronaut. That might be chat of the night. Also because it came from Britney Spears for president is just incredible. Where was I? So they put all these migrants up in hotels, and then in 2023, Eric Adams' administration announces that they are spending $50,000 to relocate 114 migrant households who entered New York from Texas. They're going to relocate them to China and other states within the U.S., and they were resettled. And these were people seeking political asylum. So I guess that's the way to handle it. Here's some other random events while he was mayor. He expanded summer youth employment to 90,000 jobs. They agreed on a city budget, but it was like very touch and go. He hosted a community conversation, a series of open dialogues across the city. He did declare a state of emergency about the migrants in New York City, which is a little crazy. Hotels in Manhattan, I mean, they deserve the best, but, like, this is cruel. That's what I mean. Like, it felt weird to me. Like, then they showed on the news these, like, refugees staying in very fancy hotels in Manhattan that I was like, is this a joke? Like, did you do this to make it look wasteful? Like, it just made no sense. Because at first they were like, tent city, and like, tent city, no. And then they were like, okay, the Ritz-Carlton. And it was like, well, no. Like, just the whole thing was handled so poorly. And like I said, the whole situation was very strange. I'm glad to hear that these people got resettled. I hope it was a positive experience for them. I would imagine it wasn't, but it would be cooler if it was. One thing that he did that I think is so funny personally is he hired the rat czar, someone to be in charge of New York City rats. And remember, he hates rats.
We are just really happy today to say that we have found our rat czar, and she is focused on improving the quality of life
for the
of
rats.
New Yorkers. All of us want to improve the quality. It is expensive enough to live in a city with our families and children. We don't need outside tenants like rats in our homes terrorizing us every day.
Rat mitigation is more than a quality of life issue. Rats are the symptom of systemic issues, including sanitation, health, housing, and economic justice. You'll be seeing a lot of me.
Why did they
and a
film
lot
the
less
rat
rats.
stuff? Oh wait, someone had a good point I want to read. The governors who trafficked asylum seekers to blue states literally lied to people they sent, saying they had their whole lives set up when they arrived. Yes, that's what I mean. Like, the whole thing from the jump was just fucked up. And I don't know all the details around it, but it was just very much like using people as a political play, and it was a weird situation that I feel like I'll blame Eric Adams for a lot, but I'm not going to blame him for that in particular. And he has declared war on rats.
Everyone that knows me, they know one thing. I hate rats. You know, when we started killing them in Borough Hall, you know, some of the same folks that criticizing us now called me a murderer because I was killing rats. Well, you know what? We're going to kill rats. Today, we are announcing a once-in-a-generation change that would have a real impact on the cleanliness of our city. We are drastically reducing the amount of time that garbage will remain on our curb.
So with New Yorkers and the rats, you guys put your trash on the street, and you've been doing it forever. Like, New Yorkers have been putting literal bags of garbage in no container other than a trash bag onto the street and leaving it there. And you've been doing that for hundreds of years. So I can't say that I'm shocked you have a rat problem.
We're shifting the time where people can set out black bags and trash from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. This will reduce the amount of time the trash is on the street before collection, keeping our streets cleaner for a longer period of time, and discouraging rodents from running their own version of what we like to say open restaurants.
Yes, and I'm glad we're talking about the rat situation, because New Yorkers are like, our rats are crazy. And someone who lived in New York said, yeah, we just set them out. So the fact that, like, in the year, what is this, 2022, they're just now being like, maybe we don't leave garbage just out everywhere. Just a thought. Like, just to have your trash naked on the street, like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, actually, what did you think? He was called the nightlife mayor because he was going out all the time. Someone mentioned a video of him at the club with, like, Cara Delevingne, whatever her name is. And he embraced this. He was like, yeah, I'm the nightlife mayor. So people said he held late night meetings at high-end venues, and his refusal to identify who was picking up the tab sparked scrutiny from the Conflict of Interest Board and the media. And he would be out super late every night, but then wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, which to me, that's cocaine. That's cocaine. If you have a man in his 50s or 60s who is partying late every night and waking up at 5 a.m. and working out every day, that man is on cocaine. I'm sorry. Allegedly, all alleged, but, like, men of that age can't do that. And then it's the plant-based diet, you guys. So his administration also really supported the hospitality sector by overhauling enforcement and moving the Office of Nightlife. In late 2023, he appointed, you guessed it, an NYP detective as the executive director of the New York City Office of Nightlife. He keeps it in his knapsack. So here's a picture of him at Club Zero Bond in 2021. And then here's him talking about this.
Well, other news tonight, and Mayor Eric Adams also on the defensive today, responding to a lengthy report and story in today's New York Times about his nightlife habits. At issue is whether or not he's committing an ethics violation with his repeated visits to a couple of high-end New York establishments. Linda Schmidt is in Midtown to explain. Linda.
Yeah, first of all, hi there, Lori, to you. And I have to start off with this here, first and foremost. The mayor has always said that he was going to be out and about in this city supporting the nightlife, and that is exactly what he has been doing since he got into office. Well, now there is a New York Times article that is questioning whether or not some of his activity is violating the city's ethics rules.
They're saying that
with
Eric
the Cannabis
goes out to
NYC.
restaurant. Breaking news. Duh. Yes, I do. And I don't hide in doing it.
Mayor Adams calling this report in the New York Times silly. The
Phyllis, is it morally wrong to party till dawn?
Relationship with the owners of Osteria La Baya, a restaurant in Midtown. The twin brothers who own the place have a checkered past, according to the New York Times, of felony convictions, unpaid tax bills, and other legal issues. The restaurant is one of the mayor's favorites, and the Times is reporting the mayor visited La Baya on at least 14 nights in June.
14 times in a month?
You know, what's going on with the New York Times? The front page of the New York Times.
The article questions if the mayor is paying for his meals or are they free in an effort for the owners to gain favor with one of the most powerful politicians in the country.
I pay every bill, not the city.
Valid question.
I pay every bill.
The article also points out the mayor is a regular at Zero Bond, a private members club in NoHo. The mayor is not a member. The owner, Scott Sardiano, is standing next to Mayor Adams before he was elected, as he promised to support the city's nightlife. This year, Mayor Adams appointed Sardiano to the board of the Metropolitan Museum, a sought-after position on the New York social scene.
There's no concrete evidence of any wrongdoing.
Law professor Richard Berfault is the former chair of the city's Conflicts of Interest Board. He says the mayor's activities might be creating an optics problem for him. And in the minds of some,
I don't need no membership. I'm that guy.
Reality.
He's entitled to choose the people he wants to socialize with. But, you know, with an important public figure like the mayor, there is a public interest in knowing who those people are.
Fair. And I agree.
Now, one last thing
if he was
for you.
good at his
The
job,
mayor is allowed
it'd be funny.
to accept a meal from a restaurant as long as that restaurant is not doing business with the city. Now, on the other side of that,
I believe him because he has a million documents in his office in a fire hazard
not to
kind of
accept
way.
valuable gifts that are being given to them because of their position. Lori, back inside to you.
All right, Linda. Thank you.
So this is from an article in 2022. He is reshaping New York City's entire approach to reading because he was dyslexic. But his idea was actually good. Like, I deleted, I had like 15 slides about this and I deleted it because it was just like me being a nerd about reading. But they are going to, or they decided to switch to phonics-based literacy instruction, which is the most effective way. Balanced literacy is bullshit. You need to do phonics-based instruction. And in the interview, he recalled how he was reluctant to talk about his learning disability and his career because it affected his self-confidence. But then he decided to embrace it when he was running for mayor to show working class New Yorkers that he understands their challenges. So his dark little secret of dyslexia, once he realized, oh, this could be advantageous on the campaign trail, then suddenly he wanted to tell everybody about it. And now he wants children with disabilities to see that they can be successful. People need to see that while I'm on this high profile stage, those children with learning disabilities with different issues that they're trying to overcome, they need to see that they're going to be all right. One thing that I deleted but was kind of cool in the article is he talked about the way he was able to pass all of his police exams was by getting audio tapes of the study books, which I just thought was a cool point. And yeah, so he's like super passionate about literacy. Then this is in 2023 at an annual interfaith breakfast. He said that he disagreed with the separation of church and state. People need to see they can have a learning disability and do crime. Exactly. He said, "Don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take out the heart of the body and the body dies." He said that he disagreed with the Supreme Court's 1962 decision in Engel versus Vitale, I think, in which school prayer was made unconstitutional. When we took prayers out of schools, guns came into schools. Yikes. Him saying this at an interfaith event. No, literally, that's what kills me is like the interfaith breakfast is literally like, let's have all of these people of different faiths come together. End separation of church and state, ? And then in March 2023, as a result of high office vacancy rates, they announced plans to convert vacant office buildings into affordable apartments, but Eric Adams elicited backlash after proposing dormitory-style accommodations and declaring that apartments did not require windows. He's always so close. It's like, yes, turn the office buildings into affordable apartments. Nope, you gotta put windows in them. That's just solitary confinement, Eric. We know you love it. And then he met with the British conservative politician Oliver Dowden in October of 2023. I don't know anything about this guy, but just the fucking heart hands. I was like, why do you have heart hands with this conservative politician? Like, do not piss me off. In July 2023, during the migrant housing crisis, he argued that New York City was running out of room and resources to provide for the 100,000 migrants from the southern border. He said, "Our cup has basically runneth over. We have no more room in this city." And then in August 2023, a lawyer for Governor Kathy Hochul's office, who is governor of New York, so again, he's mayor, this is governor, accused Eric Adams of being slow to act and failing to accept aid from the state. So the state was like, we will help you deal with this. And apparently he didn't answer. And then he's like, oh my God, this is impossible. And then in September 2023, he told reporters that the migrant crisis could destroy New York City. New York City has been having an influx of migrants since, before the Revolutionary War. Like, New York has always been a city of people moving there. He vetoed legislation that would have increased eligibility for housing vouchers. He implemented part of legislation eliminating a 90-day wait period for people in shelters. So again, like, some good, some horrible. Isn't that the whole thing about NYC? No, literally. Like, I think that's their whole thing. And in an op-ed, he claimed that the bills would cost too much and create administrative difficulties. So the city council published annotations of his op-ed and said that he was wrong, misleading, gaslighting, and it was alternative facts. So, city council fucking hates him. He's writing op-eds. Like, we have lost the plot so bad. Then city council overrode his veto. This was the first time that a veto had been overridden since Bloomberg. And then the New York Times described the override as another example of an increasingly confrontational relationship between city council and the mayor. And he indicated that he wanted to challenge the veto override in court. He also tried to challenge the right to shelter. So New York has like a right to shelter, like they have to provide shelter space for everybody. It's like a thing there. Like if you're homeless on the street, like they have to provide a shelter to you. And he was like, let's end that shit. So he's just really being bad at his job. He was at a housing town hall and an 84-year-old Holocaust survivor accused Eric Adams of being controlled by the real estate lobby. And she was like, hey, I live in a rent-controlled apartment, or I live in rent-stabilized housing, but the rent's going up. You are controlled by the lobby. And he said, don't stand in front like you treated someone that's on the plantation that you own. to an 84-year-old Holocaust survivor. And then the following day, they were like, do you feel like you went too far? And he said, no, she was being degrading. And like, I don't know if her accusation was correct, but that's not like an offensive accusation. Like, if your rent has gone up, to look at the mayor and be like, I think you're controlled by the real estate lobby, that's like not weird. You know what I mean? Like, that's not like she like stood up and said the N-word or something. Like what, like, why did you say that to her? God, he's just so bad at his job. And then he was sued because he committed sexual assault in the 90s. So that's not great. I can't say I'm shocked. This is under the New York Adult Survivors Act. There's a law that basically makes it easier for victims to sue because in crimes of like sexual crimes, sexual assault, rape, a lot of people don't want to press charges right away for a myriad of reasons we could get into. So this law is like protective to victims. So March 18th, 2024, a legal complaint related to the lawsuit was filed, alleging that in 1993, Adams drove the woman, who at the time had recently been passed over to a promotion, to a vacant lot and then asked her for oral sex in exchange for career advancement. That sounds like something he would do. The complaint also alleges that she refused. He forced her to touch him and then he ejaculated on her leg. So overall 0 out of 10 stars on that experience, I'm sure. It also included counts of battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, gender discrimination, retaliation, and sexual harassment. So a myriad of things in this lawsuit, and he denied the accusation, claimed that he had conducted himself with dignity during his 40 years in the public life. So I believe women. Like, I believe her. I don't need to know anything else. Like, he has been lying and scamming, and I believe that happened to her. I believe that he gender discriminated against her. Like, I do believe that I believe all of that. I believe her. And then July 7th, 2023, 6 of his supporters are indicted for alleging a straw donor scheme meant to steer money to his mayoral campaign. So he's not been indicted, but his supporters are being indicted for finance campaign stuff. Then November 2nd, 2023, federal agents raid the home of his chief fundraiser. November 6th, the FBI seizes his electronic devices, which was 2 cell phones and an iPad. So the police are on the way, pretty much. And then November 12th, 2023, the New York Times reported that an FBI investigation into Adams was related in part to an alleged influence by the Turkish government to have its consulate in a Manhattan building approved by New York authorities without a fire inspection. So he's getting investigated not for the sexual assault stuff. That was a separate lawsuit. This is about, like, basically he wanted NY Fire to skip a fire inspection to open this building for the Turkish government consulate, essentially. So here's a bunch of stuff that happened while he was being investigated. Like, the investigation starts, everyone wants him to resign, he doesn't, and then like more shit keeps going down. Right after the investigation starts, the school system sues him, which I love. They said, oh, you were just accused of sexual assault. You're being investigated by the FBI. Let's bring one onto this, and we will talk about Serena Carpenter in a second. So in December 2023, the United Federation of Teachers filed a lawsuit against him to prevent a $550 million cut to education funding. So again, he's in public being like, I'm dyslexic, fund the schools, we need this. But then in private, oh, let's cut the education budget. The New York Teachers Union is suing to block this. warning that steep budget reductions proposed by him would weaken his education initiatives and would also violate state law, because apparently in New York City there's a law that says they cannot reduce school spending unless they have a decline in revenue. So unless government revenue goes down, they cannot cut school spending. So he faced growing fallout over multi-billion-dollar budget cuts announced that would slash hours at public libraries, eliminate park and sanitation programs, freeze police hiring, and other cutbacks in municipal services. So he has like a budget crisis on his hands as well. Things are not good. And then he says the 9/11 thing.
Well, something Mayor Adams said right here on Pix 11 is raising a lot of eyebrows and causing quite the stir on social media.
Yeah, the interview airing last Sunday morning on Pix on Politics, asking why 9/11 was invoked in this exchange.
Mr. Mayor, we've come to the end of what was a very eventful 2023, right? So when you look at the totality of the year, if you had to describe it, and it's tough to do, in one word, what would that word be, and tell me why?
New York.
So again, the question asked was, if you could describe the totality of the year in one word, what would the word be? Again, the question, if you had to describe the year using one word, what would it be?
This is a place where...
What would that word be, and tell me why?
New York. This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person who's celebrating a new business that's open.
Why did you bring up 9/11? Like, somehow seeing it in context made it worse. Like, when I first saw that clip, I assumed they were already talking about 9/11 and he just said something stupid. Again, the question was, what word would you use to describe the year? The word he picked was New York, and then immediately started talking about 9/11. I'm jealous for those of us seeing this for the first time. Semantics is the issue, isn't the issue, but that's more than one word. As two people who were children in New York during 9/11, this was insane. That's what I mean. You were a child in New York during 9/11. Imagine a business is in the tower.
Well, the comment quickly going viral. So we wanted
Just
to follow
took it and
up with
ran.
the mayor, and today Pix 11's Henry Rossoff did just that, asking if he regretted mentioning 9/11. The mayor saying no, citing the quote, sentence police. He then elaborated further.
And using the analogy of the complexity of what could happen in the city, from planes landing on our Hudson River to...
Now he's trying to make it about the river.
That was my comment. Those who take my comments in good faith are not going to try to turn them around. Those who have those evil feelings in their heart is going to take it that way.
All right, you heard the mayor refer to the miracle on the Hudson, saying that was his comment. Now, he did not mention that on Pix on Politics. He also told the media no one knows what he deals with every single day, and says people will always find a reason to knock him.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So let's go back to that article that came out in 2023. So remember where it was talking about the skateboarding and how his background is so sketchy and unverifiable? This is when it came out. It came out in 2023 while this investigation is opened. He said the 9/11 thing. He's cutting schools. He's cutting jobs. He's cutting parks. He's cutting police. He's cutting everything. Even the mayor's foundational story, his arrest and subsequent beating by officers, has undergone revisions. He had long said that he and his older brother entered the home of a prostitute to take money that she owed them. But by late 2021, in an interview with The Times, he changed the occupation of the woman to a go-go dancer who they were helping because she broke her leg. Kenneth Sherrill, a professor emeritus of political science at Hunter College in Manhattan, said that some of the mayor's exaggerations and dramatic anecdotes appear to stem from his eagerness to connect with New Yorkers. Maybe I'm being too generous, but it's entirely possible that this is his way of saying, listen, I understand where you're coming from and I've experienced things like this too. And then comes a fable which has some basis in truth. This is what I think too. I think he's an exaggerator. Indeed, in recent weeks, Mr. Adams has told worshippers that he received a divine message telling him to talk about God, Eric. And he spoke about the fake gold chains a block or so away from the former Spofford Juvenile Center in the Bronx, where he said he was held after his arrest. His window washing story came of the late stages of the 2021 mayoral race. When he was asked a question about the nuisance of squeegee men in Midtown Manhattan, he said he understood their plight because when he was 17, he washed car windows on the street corner. I had a dirty rag with some Windex that I watered down, and I used to stand on the corner of Jamaica Ave watching windows so I could save up enough money to give my mother the money so we could have a meal to eat. See, this is what I mean. He just is saying things. And like, maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. Danik Miller, a former city council member from Queens and a political ally, says that part of Mr. Adams' allure was his ability to connect with ordinary New Yorkers. You can't govern from an ivory tower, sending out memorandums that say, I want to do this without knowing why. You have to get buy-in. On the rare occasion when the mayor is presented with evidence of a lie, he has clung to his perfectly imperfect defense. When Mr. Adams, an evangelist for veganism, wrote a book about his diet, was confronted last year with witness accounts of him eating fish, he said, I'm perfectly imperfect and have occasionally eaten fish. He used that phrase again last week when asked about the story of selling gold chains. When I go through my journals that I've been keeping for a long time, I look at a whole lot of things that have been told. And all I can tell you is that you're looking at a perfectly imperfect mayor who has gone through a lot, and I'm qualified to help the people who are going through a lot. So, like, it's always the doubling back and the changing. There have been other concessions. He said that he graduated high school in 1978, but he actually graduated in January 1979. When asked about the discrepancy, he acknowledged that he graduated late. In 2019, he told a story about intimidating a neighbor whose dog was befouling his yard. He acknowledged in 2021 that he had co-opted that from another source. It didn't happen. He said that it did happen, it just didn't happen to him. There were also campaign questions about where he lived, with the Brooklyn apartment and the non-vegan food that he said was his son. As for being an experienced skateboarder, he's sticking to his story. On Tuesday, the mayor's office put out a statement insisting that Mayor Adams had skated as a child nearly half a century ago, asserting that he made his own skateboard with metal wheels and a piece of plywood. There was no skate parks then, nor was there a World Skateboarding Federation, Mr. Levy, the mayor's press secretary, said. So Mr. Adams made simple ramps with cinder blocks and plywood. It was called skate, fall, and get your ass back up. They did, and he, like, couldn't skateboard. Like, they did try and put him on a skateboard, and he, like, stumbled it, which is why people looked into it. And were like, so you're saying you skateboarded as a child, before skateboarding was popular, you invented skateboarding. And he was like, yes. Yes, I did. I did invent skateboarding. So, what the fuck is going on with this case? July 2024, he receives grand jury subpoenas from federal prosecutors as a part of their corruption inquiry. And then in September, the homes of top officials in administration were raided by federal agents. First deputy mayor, the school chancellor, deputy mayor of public safety, NYPD commissioner, and his aide. So like his assistant, I guess. So this is when the series of investigations started coming out. On September 25th, 2024, he was indicted on federal charges. He is the first mayor in New York City history to be charged with federal crimes while in office. And then on September 26th, the case was unsealed, revealing the 5 charges: bribery, conspiracy, fraud, and 2 counts of soliciting illegal foreign campaign donations. The allegations for which Adams was indicted go all the way back to 2014 when he was Brooklyn borough president. And Adams is accused of receiving luxury travel and other benefits from Turkish individuals, namely a government official and several businessmen. This includes Adams pressured to the New York City Fire Department to open a Turkish consular building without a fire inspection. So allegedly, in order to cover up his misconduct, he created and instructed others to make fake paper trails to look like he actually paid for these trips. So essentially what he's in trouble for is taking money from a foreign entity, which is like a big no-no when you are an elected official, amongst other things. So the indictment also notes that Turkish officials pressured a staffer for assurances that Adams would boycott the commemoration of the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. So this is what it said. On April 21st, 2022, a Turkish official messaged the Adams staffer noting that the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day was approaching and repeatedly asked the Adams staffer for assurances that Adams would not make any statement about the Armenian Genocide, which Turkey denies the Armenian Genocide. Turkey's like, that never happened. We don't know what you're talking about. Eric, make sure you're on the same page as us. And Eric Adams did not make a statement. So it's hard to say because like they were like, don't say shit. And then he didn't say shit. So it's like, were you never going to say shit? But that's one of the things they got him on. He was arraigned in federal court on September 27th. He pleaded not guilty. Everyone starts telling him to resign. U.S. Representative Jerry Nadler, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everyone is telling him to resign, and he's like, fuck you, I'm not doing that. He says that the charges against him are entirely false. They are based on lies. He called for an immediate trial, and he vowed to fight the charges. He also claimed that he was being retaliated against for opposing the Biden administration's handling of the migrant crisis. So his take is that this is the Democrats coming after me because I didn't agree with Biden about the migrant issues. On September 30th, he sought dismissal of the bribery charge for being extraordinarily vague and argued that it was brought by zealous prosecutors. This is him, September 2024.
Thank you for being here this morning. And I want to thank the supporters of all ethnic groups that are here, particularly the men and women of the clergy that's here, that have joined me here today. And we are not surprised. We expected this. This is not surprising to us at all. The actions that have unfolded over the last 10 months.
Yeah. And yes, he did give P. Diddy the key to the city in 2023.
The demonizing. This did not surprise us that we reached this day. And I ask New Yorkers to wait to hear our defense before making any judgments. In about 30 minutes, we're going to hear a story of the case that is in front of us. The story will come from the federal prosecutors. And I ask to wait and hear our side to this narrative. From here, my attorneys will take care of the case so I can take care of the city. My day-to-day will not change. I will continue to do the job for 8.3 million New Yorkers that I was elected to do. Amen. And the 300,000 plus employees of our city government will continue to do their jobs. Because this is what we do as New Yorkers. It's an insult to the hardworking people of the city that anyone would say that they won't do their jobs while this case proceeds in the background. They are dedicated public servants, and I have been one of them for many years, and they're going to continue to do their job.
So his whole stance is, I'm a dedicated public servant, these charges are bullshit, they're politically motivated, etc., etc. And then Timothy Pearson left his position. Timothy Pearson was the subject of complaints of battery and sexual harassment. And like, look at who you surround yourself with. Mike Tyson, you were accused of sexual assault. You gave P. Diddy the key to the city. Like, this is telling me everything I need to know. And then another guy, Mohammed Ba was the chief liaison to the Muslim community. He resigned, and then he was arrested and charged with witness tampering and destruction of evidence in relation to the campaign. Also, October 2024, the deputy mayor and the director of Asian Affairs resigned their posts. They had been searched by federal authorities as well. First deputy mayor also stepped down. So did school chancellor. Most of these people had their homes raided. Yeah, pretty much everyone is leaving. Everything's a mess. And it all goes back to Serena Carpenter in a way. Serena Carpenter is connected because of her Feather music video. In late 2023, she filmed part of this music video in a church in Brooklyn. This was a very racy video that scandalized church leadership, which led to this guy being demoted because he approved of the shoot. So a priest gets demoted. During this internal review, investigators discovered financial business dealings with Frank Caroni, who was Mayor Adams' former chief of staff. Oh, Love Island time. I should have ended more at 9. We are almost done, but if you have to go, I understand. We're coming to the end here. So they discover that the church has been working with Mayor Adams' chief of staff. And so it's not that Sabrina Carpenter was involved in the crime. It's that her video made them investigate internally at the church, and that internal investigation turned up something else that had nothing to do with Sabrina Carpenter. But she joked about it. She did a concert at Madison Square Garden, which is in New York, and she said, should we talk about how I got the mayor indicted? Which is like kind of funny. He also rejected a ceasefire with Gaza. He's a very pro-Israel. He also suggested that the city could hire migrants as lifeguards because they are, quote, excellent swimmers. People came after him for that. Like I said, lots of people were leaving their post. And there was a reports that this person, chief counsel, left due to Adams' refusal to get rid of officials who have come under federal scrutiny. So literally just a hot mess express. Such a mess. I've already made 3 memes for this lesson, and now I have to make a 4th about Sabrina Carpenter. And then an angel during trying times, Zohran Mamdani, launches his bid for mayor October 2023 of 2024. Or October 23rd of 2024. Sorry, I can't fucking talk. But as Eric Adams is falling apart, Zohran is coming alive. So on October 26, Eric Adams spoke out in defense of former President Donald Trump and criticized VP Harris. Again, this is right before the election of 2024. He said that he did not think that Trump was a fascist. So he's like fully Republican now. Like that, no ifs, and or buts. He's fully Republican now. This article, the one of him smoking, is from October 2025. He did a GQ article titled Taking a Smoke Break with Eric Adams, who's still living it up as mayor. These are just some random quotes I pulled from the article. There are ghosts in Gracie Mansion. Hell yeah, you hear him all the time. New York City Mayor Eric Adams replies when I ask if the official mayoral residence harbors any spirits. The first week in Gracie Mansion, the mayor continues, I was like, listen, man, I'm not sleeping here. You hear conversations, you hear movement, you hear doors close. They're going to say, wait a minute, that's crazy. But reality is reality, you know? I do catch a few oddities. A cat patrolling the backyard, a cape made of turkey feathers, a strikingly large painting by the artist Justin Michael Wildington that depicts Brooke Shields both as an adult and a child. What the fuck? Brooke Shields has been done so wrong. Brooke Shields was in Playboy when she was 10 years old. Brooke Shields, as a nude 10-year-old, was exploited in Playboy. And you have a painting of Brooke Shields as a child and an adult in your, house? That's fucking weird. I kind of want to do a Brooke Shields stream, but it's heavy. She has had some fucked up stuff happen to her. So he has weird art. He also appeared side by side with Andrew Cuomo. A lot of things are happening. This reporter said it's obvious that he wants to be liked and clearly relishes in the opportunity to kick back with a cigar. And even my most frivolous questions. So he's just kind of being annoying. Brooke Shields should be allowed to kill a man every other business day. He's also more than happy in between blowing experienced plumes of cigar to give the origin story of the legendary All My Haters bar. I was at a restaurant. It was a place called One Fish, Two Fish on Madison Ave and 90-something street. It was low budget. If you wanted to bring your shorty somewhere in Manhattan, you could do that. There was a waiter. I asked her to send a dish back because it was cold, and every time he came back to the table, he would step on my foot. He did it the first time. I said it was an accident. Then 3 times he did it. I said, you know what? This guy's a hater. Let your hater be your waiter. No matter how angry he was, I'm sitting at the table of success. Adams is not the type to fret over getting everything exactly correct. I know I'm not perfect. Matter of fact, I'm imperfectly perfect. I make so many mistakes, but I don't take any of this personal. So he's still doing the war on rats. Again, this kills me. This kills me.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams
the trash can, like it's groundbreaking.
Latest weapon in its war against rats, a plastic trash bin. Adams demonstrated how the bin works, smoothly dabbed.
What do you mean demonstrated how it works?
and announced the days of
The failed
rodent-infested
dab.
piles of garbage bags lining the streets of the 5 boroughs were at an end.
Started November 12th. Buildings with 1 to 9 residential units will be required to put their trash into wheelie bins like this one here.
And they did
will be
play
required
Empire
to
State of Mind
make
in the
sure that
background.
they're sealed. These are durable. They are attractive and New York affordable.
Last August,
Just saying
containerization
words.
requirements went into effect for all food-related businesses in New York City.
And we all have
So
one
his
unified,
rat plan
just like
is they have to
those
start
are
putting their
those
garbage
pesky
in
New York
containers.
City rats.
Containerization
As
is
for
crazy.
The other 30% of New York City trash produced by our largest residential buildings, we are coming for that too.
The sanitation commissioner said these
One time when I was teaching, I was bored and it was like after standardized testing. So I was showing this video to my class. I think this was in 2025 maybe. So like a year after it happened or less than that. So this was in like spring of 2025. I was showing this to my class and then an administrator walked in and I was like, look how in New York they don't know to put the trash in trash cans. Because we were talking about like the pizza rat and stuff like that. So this is characterized as one of the major achievements of his first term. The case is still ongoing, but then keep in mind, the election of 2024 happens. Donald Trump gets elected again, and then Donald Trump takes office. So when Donald Trump takes office, he instructs federal prosecutors to drop all the charges against Eric Adams. So that's that on that. Cool. And Danielle Sassoon, who was the U.S. attorney in charge of the case, refused to dismiss the charges. And she later resigned because she said that Emile Bove and Trump were making an illicit deal with Eric Adams to dismiss the charges. So people quit over this as well. The case was assigned to the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Section, which John Keller, the section's acting head, and Kevin Driscoll, the acting head of the Department of Justice's Criminal Division, both resigned. Emily Bove gathered the remaining members of the Public Integrity Unit, ordering them to find a prosecutor who would file a motion to dismiss the charges. So the Trump administration is hard being like, we are not prosecuting him. Find a fucking person that'll dismiss it. So 4 deputy mayors announced their departure within his administration. And this is a mess. The efforts by a new Trump administration to dismiss the case came the same week that the administration was negotiating with the mayor over immigration. And they did a joint interview where Adams, that if Adams did not cooperate with immigration, Homan would then visit Adams' office up his butt saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? Because earlier Adams agreed with Homan to give access to Rikers Island jail for ICE, because New York is a sanctuary city. So like it's not illegal to be undocumented in New York, so they like can't put you in jail in New York for that. But Eric Adams was like, Rikers Island is technically not in New York, so it's a loophole that they were going to let ICE use Rikers Island. And then Eric Adams went on Dr. Phil and was talking about immigration on Dr. Phil. I don't fucking know. And then his indictment was officially dismissed with prejudice by Dale Ho on April 2nd, 2025. Ho wrote that the court cannot force the Department of Justice to prosecute a defendant. Ho highlighted the dismissal is not about whether Mayor Adams is innocent and guilty, and the dismissal does not express any opinion to the merits of the case or whether the prosecution should move forward. Ho found that Adams' case was entirely consistent with prior public corruption prosecutions, and that prosecutors followed all appropriate Justice Department guidelines, and there was no evidence of improper motives. So Trump's reasoning for dismissing it was like, oh, well, it was politically motivated. But even the judge is like, this was a normal case. Like, there was every reason to investigate this man. And Judge Ho said that the Justice Department's dismissal request smacks of a bargain, dismissal of the indictment in exchange for immigration policy concessions. He declined to dismiss without prejudice as requested by the Justice Department and wrote that in doing so risked Adams becoming more beholden to the demands of a federal government than to the wishes of his own constituents, as it would appear that Adams' freedom depends on his ability to carry out immigration enforcement priorities of the Trump administration. So he literally just like struck a deal with Donald Trump. And also, why has he been on Dr. Phil a million times? And they're all like an hour long. I didn't know that was happening. Like, when did that start happening? And then in May 2025, he met with President Trump at the White House. They said they talked about New York City infrastructure, immigration. They said it was productive, whatever the fuck that means. And in the midst of all of this, he's like, you know what? I'm going to run for re-election. Why not? I should run for re-election. Re-election is perfect for me. So he announces he is not going to be in the Democratic primary. He is going to be in the general election as an independent because he said he did not have a clear, realistic path to victory if he continued to seek Democratic Party line. So he is the first incumbent mayor to seek re-election without the nomination of either major party since 1969. And he remains a registered Democrat, but he's not running with them, I guess. And he circulated petitions that instead of running under his name, Eric Adams, he wanted to run under End Anti-Semitism and Safe and Affordable. And the Board of Elections said, no. You get one line. You get one line for that. You're not, no. No. Him on Dr. Phil is just two dummies going exactly at each other. And so he remained on the ballot, but he ended up endorsing Andrew Cuomo after appearing at a Knicks game with Cuomo. So a predator criminal is endorsing a predator criminal. Shocker. And then our king, Zohran Mamdani, won the election of New York City. Yay! Yes, God. Yes, God. I love to see that. So, we're almost done. Let's honor the legacy of Eric Adams. This is from The Daily Show. So did he have to choose between End Anti-Semitism and Safe and Affordable? Which did he pick? He went with his name. The state was like, no, you can run as your name. He literally is just threatening us. And then this is right after the election.
Do you have any last words for Zohran Mamdani's New York?
This is New York. It's not Cuba. It's not China. It is the center of capitalism, not socialism. Can't take it backwards. We've made too much success.
But we've never had socialism, so how is it backwards?
Marry, F, kill, communism, socialism, capitalism.
I would marry capitalism, Israel.
The rats run this city.
Socialism.
Did he just say Israel?
I would marry capitalism, Israel. Socialism and communism. I would kick to the curb.
Here's a list of things that you love. Marry, F, kill, the Black community, NYPD, Israel.
I would marry, and love all three of them, and I would add on to them Ghana, Senegal, Nigeria,
shout out,
South Africa. Exactly. I love them all.
The
love
socks.
Is love, and I've shown it to all those communities.
What I appreciate about you is that everything you say is so memorable. Like you are like a modern day Sophocles.
You know, I don't think people realize what's in a person's eyes.
Oh gosh! Any last
Go back to that for a
Oh
minute,
my
though.
goodness! I just don't want you to hit on me or something that makes me uncomfortable. What were you saying?
And you know what's interesting is that whenever a male gives an authentic conversation, it's automatic hitting on you. I'm not hitting on you. I'm interacting with you.
Okay.
You have some good energy, and you know that.
Okay.
So why can't you appreciate me telling you that?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Like, he's so coworker coded. Like, really, really. And then March 2026, Mamdani moves to end the city's defense of Adams in his sexual assault lawsuit. So that case is ongoing. I don't have updates on that case. The only update I have is that he has to get his own representation. Yay! Yay! We love Mamdani. So he launched an NYC token cryptocurrency. He stated that it was built to fight the rapid spread of anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism. It rapidly reached a market capitalization of $600 million after it plummeted in value, and withdrew about $2.5 million in early proceeds, and the token was described as a rug pull. The team said that the withdrawal was intended to rebalance the liquidity and claimed that they had not withdrawn any money from their account, and $1 million was still left unaccounted for. So I guess he did this scam. And then April 10th, 2026, he was granted honorary Albanian citizenship. So now he's Albanian, I guess. Good for him. And then this was posted 2024.
Eric is your mayor. We getting W's now. We need a mayor of swagger. I'm the Biden of Brooklyn. You know, I wake up in the morning at some time and look at myself and I give myself the finger. I'm Gandhi-like.
We've seen this so many times.
Gandhi.
It's different, but they're all the
Gandhi.
same.
I want to be like Gandhi.
I wanted to
This
end on
is
something
life.
fun. Oh, that's the video.
Everyone that knows me, they know one thing. I hate rats. Some of the same folks are criticizing us now called me a murderer because I was killing rats. Well, you know what? We're going to kill rats. New York City is the Islamabad of America. We've gone through so many crises in our lifetime. From 9/11 to the Great Depression. This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trays to, you know, keep your marriage together. Little outdoors will help you. But I think rain also increases our population. People stay home and they reignite their love affair. Does Eric eat fish? Does he eat a hamburger? Does he do this? Does he do that? The problem wasn't the molded pizza. The problem was the pizza. Vegans eat Oreos and they drink Coca-Cola. I don't. I am the pilot, folks. And you are all passengers. Stop praying for me to crash the plane. Pray for me to land the plane. Because there's no parachutes on this plane. We're all going down together.
So there's some of my sources. I didn't do a great job of tracking them because there was just so much, if we're being honest. So that is Eric Adams. This ended up being a lot longer than I intended it to be, but I just really felt like I had to include everything, and I didn't even tell you everything. The way I literally didn't even tell you everything. So upcoming topics. It's Utah summer. We're having a Utah summer. We are doing Taylor from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. That's going to be 2 parts. Then we're doing Whitney from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And then we're just going to do men that I hate on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. It's not going to be their backstories. It's just going to be me listing them and why I hate them. They don't deserve backstories. And yeah, let me get your little Nearpod ready. I'm going to go ahead and end TikTok. I know a lot of you left early because of, what's it called? Love Island, which is fine. I'm not offended at all. It's fine. I respect your culture. But for those of you that are here, we can play our little game. We can do our little memes, and then we will get out of here. So let me put the link in the chat. Oh my God, you're here from Tokyo? Hello. Utah summer. What a word pairing. Is there like a city one? I don't think so. We'll do space. That's as close to New York as we'll get. So I will stick around, or not stick around. I'll wait a couple minutes for people to join while I play on my phone. Actually, I'm going to be productive and work on the thumbnail for this while you all are joining. We're working together. I leave tomorrow. We're touring. I'm going to be in New York, like upstate New York, not like New York, New York. And I really do not have my shit together. Like, I haven't packed and I need to leave my house like relatively early tomorrow, so that's not great. We're just gonna do this. Custom size. Cool. Nope. It's a YouTube thumbnail size. I'm not asking you, I'm asking myself. 1280 by 720, that's what I thought. Yup. Cool. Utah summer to the tune of Euro summer by Zara Larson. I picked the bear because he sleeps great at night with his teddy bear because he follows the rules. And the way that he literally just like should be indicted. Like, he literally just cozied up to Trump and Trump was like, fuck it. Sure. You cannot be indicted, that's fine. Oh wait, what do I want? CV. Oh, why didn't it bring the background? Oh, because it's locked. Silly me. Is it locked? How do I unlock you? You're really seeing how the sausage gets made, eh? The fuck? Whatever. It's fine. Everything's fine. Let me catch up in the chat. Oh my god, there's so many of you here now. Time flies. Did you visit Jay-Z Styles? I've never been to Utah. But when I go to Utah, I will try. I'm feeling quite bad at technology today. Just gonna make that bigger, and that is gonna have to be hashtag good enough. Nice. Let me make the picture of me bigger. We'll delete that one. Cool. All right, let's do our little Nearpod game. Sorry, I was neglecting you. Under the pillow. All right, I'm gonna hit start. This is just a little funsy game, and then we'll have memes at the end. Why is the koala so tall? Who's to say? Who did we learn about today? I made this game quick. I spent way too long on this stream, but it's fine. Because I thought it was gonna be quick and easy, but it just wasn't. Tried to scroll down and hit the wrong one. I'm sorry. Sometimes Nearpod be like that. Am I hungry or bored? Who is his political loyalty to? What has he had major controversies over? Pretty much everything except his romantic life. That seems to be pretty straightforward. What was his pre-political career? Cop. What is one good thing that he did? Man, the wrong answers are getting y'all tonight. Eric Adams is pro remote work. False. He hates work from home. I was only here for 20 minutes. Low-key proud of how well I'm doing. Me too. What was the result of the charges against him? We'll never know. What is Eric's biggest weakness? All of the above. Last question, and then we need to get out of here for real. I gotta pack. I gotta clean up in here so that Steven has somewhere to sleep. What is the theme of this summer for us? Utah, baby. Alrighty. Nice job, an empty school parking lot, CJ, and under the pillow a gun, Amanda, Mean Lesbo, an NB parking lot, Tuna, I want to talk about 9/11, Caitlin, 1-800-MEGAN, my Eric's Adams, the rat that took all of New York City's parachutes, a Blockbuster parking lot, Stacy, Eric Mamdani, Reebok, Cbob, Ryan, a Rat Czar parking lot, Montana Marks, a Dutch Bros parking lot, Harsh, Abby, and some people that dropped out. Alrighty, I'm gonna just stick around for a few seconds to wait for any memes because I know you have them, especially Lemur Banana. I love your memes, so I will stick around for a few moments. But thank you for being here. I'm excited next week to talk about Taylor Frankie Paul. She's a lot. We are trauma informed here. Eric Adams, you are a scammer. I hate male scammers. I hate them so much. I wish that they would just be nice. Would you like a house tour? And it's just solitary confinement. Eric Adams speaking to the people. So that was a fucking threat. I really wanted first place so I could tell Eric Adams the Rats won. Aw. You're welcome for the stream. I love the stream. Is this a crack pipe? Me, a concerned parent, evaluating the contents of my child's popular knapsack. Honestly, we should have had a stream just about that video because that's all I really wanted to talk about it. You're telling me a rat cooked this stew. These memes are good. Ew, what is that? I don't know. That was gross. It's like a little, looked like a piece of dirt or something. Ladies and gentlemen, the former mayor of NYC, the mayor of the largest city, is indicted. Sabrina Carpenter is a church. Tell Eric I want him to know it was me. Stop. Oh my God. He's so obsessed with Israel. A real custom fit. That's all my memes for tonight. Incredible work, everyone. Incredible. And I will see you next Tuesday for Taylor Frankie.